Kia ora and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. My name is Damon and I'm here to do a Kitbash video with you today. So this is for Necromunda. What do I mean by Kitbash? Of course this is a conversion, so what I'm going to be doing here is getting several different Games Workshop or Citadel kits, combining them all together and making my own Necromunda gang. Now I think Necromunda as a game, if you're familiar with it of course, is perfect for people who want to get involved in kit bashing and conversion and putting their own spin on things basically. Because it's dead easy to just go out and buy a gang and start playing Necromunda, and that's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to personalize it a little bit more and make it your own, even if it's just head swaps or gun swaps or something like that, then this would be a good sort of starting point. So I've had this idea for a little while. White Dwarf magazine released rules for a Bad Zone Enforcer gang quite recently, so we're going to be doing Bad Zone Enforcers here, but we're going to be doing my own sort of spin on it using Imperial Beastmen. So I'll show you the kits that I'm going to be using today, but if you have seen any of my previous sort of battle reports and you've seen my sort of Outcast gang, my Shadow Yagyu clan Outcast gang, there was a character that I created called Yaga, who was a Beastman Enforcer, and I combined a few kits to make this Beastman Enforcer, and I was really happy with the results. You can check him on my Instagram as well. So having done that one miniature, I thought, well, why don't I just do an entire gang of them? So that's what we're going to be attempting to do today. Now this is kind of unknown because it did take a little work to get that conversion to actually really work. And I think I'm going to have a few problems with some of the parts that I'm going to be using today, but let's go and have a look at the different bits, and I'm going to do this video in two parts. The first part, of course, is the kit bash and building element. The second part, of course, is going to be painting up the gang. So for now, let's get busy with some plastic. Alright then, so to start things off, I'm just going to show you some basic tools and equipment that we're going to need for this kit bash. This is obvious stuff, you're going to need to use this for any sort of plastic kit that you do from Games Workshop, but what we've got here is we've got some plastic snips. These are for sort of taking apart sprues and whatnot. They've got a flat side and a curved side. These ones are particularly good actually. I'd say they're better than the Games Workshop ones, and they cost me under a tenner here in Australia, which is fantastic. So I've got those. I've then got a craft knife. This one's a little bit too posh for me actually. I prefer the kind of plastic type, but this one's nice and sharp with replaceable blades. That again cost me about $4 I think here. Got some plastic glue from Games Workshop here, Citadel plastic glue. It is a bit more expensive than some of the other brands that you can buy, but I do like it. I also like the way that the nozzle works on this too. And then I've got myself a file here as well. This one's a nice flat one with a pointed end. Why do you need this? Again, just to smooth down areas. We're going to be doing quite a bit of cutting in this video, so this is just to smooth down some of those areas and join them together. The other thing that we need, which I don't actually have at the moment, is some green stuff, but hopefully I can do all of this video without any green stuff, and we'll maybe just include that in the after process. But this is a cutting mat. This was very cheap as well, but I do recommend getting one of these just for mess and stuff. Obviously this is my kitchen counter underneath as well, so saving your kitchen counter from getting knackered out too. But let's have a look at the different kits that I'm going to be using. I'm using 4 kits in this build here, and I'm going to show you some of the interesting stuff that I can do with them. The first kit, because we're doing Bad Zone Enforcers, we are going to be using the Palanite Enforcer Patrol box here. There are 2 identical sprues in this box set, and they've got most of the weapons that I'm going to be using here as well. Now in this video I'm going to be building 8 fighters only. I'm not going to be building 10, and you'll see what I mean when I show you the next box. But we're going to be using the torsos and the arms mainly. We are not going to be using the legs, and we are not going to be using the heads from this at all, as they will be other. Let's have a look at the next box now. Now the next box, you'll be thinking, why have you got Blood Bowl out? Well, this is a Necromunda gang that I'm going to be creating here, and like I said, I do like Beastmen a lot, so I'm going to be using the 8 Beastmen that you get out of the Blood Bowl Chaos Chosen Blood Bowl team box. Again, 2 identical sprues. I will not be using the Chaos Warriors in this. I'll probably just give them away. So if you want them, let me know and I could maybe send you them. But I've done this before. Let's have a look at the back here. We've got 4 different types of Beastmen actually. I think we've got several different heads as well on top of that. But what we're going to be using here are the legs mainly. And the heads, like I said. I will probably be using 1 or 2 of these Beastmen kind of as is, just with weapons as my drafted scum for the Bad Zone Enforcers as well. But that's my idea. Those are the two main sets that we're going to be using here. The other set that I've got hold of is just a small Hive Scum 4-pack here as well. The reason why I've got this is it does have some really good weapons in there. You've got auto guns, sawn-off shotguns, all sorts of basic Scum equipment which is available to the Bad Zone Enforcer Scum as well. So we're going to be using that a little bit, I reckon, too. And also a very kind person from the community has sent me 2 Genestealer Cult Neophyte sprues. Now, I'll probably be using a little bit of this as well, certainly the web gun, because web guns are available for Bad Zone Enforcers, so I will be using that one as well. I'm not sure how the Genestealer Cult arms are going to fit onto the Enforcer bodies, but that's going to be part of the fun. We're going to be doing some experimentation here. But I'm going to be building 8 different fighters using the bodies of the Enforcers, some of the arms and weapons of the Genestealer Cults and the Hive Scum, and also the Beastmen legs and heads there as well. But let's get into it. I'm going to sort of start playing around with some ideas, and we'll show you once we've got some progress made. Alright, so here's what I've done so far. Hopefully you can see all of that on the camera, but I've actually just gone through, clipped some of the sprues, clipped 8 of the Beastmen legs and heads off. So the bottom quadrant here, I've got 8 different sets of legs, or, well, it's all doubled actually, so I've got 2 of each type. I've then gone ahead and taken 8 of the Bad Zone Enforcers out as well. I've gone for all the torsos that don't have legs attached. There is one torso which does only go up to the belt. It doesn't have the sort of skirts underneath, so I kind of want those skirts because I want to be able to hide the Beastman booty. You'll see what I mean, because they've got quite chunky, thick thighs, these guys. What I'm going to do now though is just go ahead and sort of like, well, I've matched up a few weapons that I'm definitely going to use. I've got a sniper's rifle here, a bolt gun, a shotgun, and a web gun here. The others I've kind of left up till later, because I'm not sure what I'm actually going to give them. I do need a leader as well, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to use one of these as the leader or perhaps a different model down the track, but so far so good. I'm now going to start gluing things together and see what we get. Right, so here I'm just gluing all the torsos together here. Of course, a lot of people tend to dry fit stuff. I don't, use blue tack, etc. A lot of the time I'll just experiment with the plastic glue. I mean, you can easily pull it apart a few times. You don't want to do it too many times because it will warp the plastic, of course. But here was the easy part. This was just, of course, putting the torsos together and some of the gun arms. I did do the bolt gun here and the combat shotgun as well. I then move on to do the sniper rifle and the web gun as well. I think this is the web gun here. Now the web gun was a Genestealer Cult web gun, and of course it does fit slightly awkwardly. The arms, or at least the torso, is ever so slightly wide for the web gun here. All right, so we've done a little bit of progress here. I managed to do the web gun. Doesn't quite fit perfectly, but I think with a little bit of green stuff, that's going to look absolutely fine. So the Genestealer Cult arms do work with Enforcers, FYI. I've done a bolt gun here. I've done a Enforcer shotgun here as well, just to cover all bases. I do want to do a concussion carbine as well at some point. I've done a sniper rifle torso here as well, and I've done 3, or should I say 4, generic torsos there as well. The next thing I'm going to move on to, of course, is the Beastman's legs. Now, I've done this before, however, I did have to do quite a bit of cutting because the Beastman legs, as you'll see, don't actually match up or marry pretty well with these guys. They're too fat, so we do need to do a bit of cutting, a little bit of filing to enable these to fit. I will, of course, be using guns and grenades as well to sort of hide any gaps that I do see, and also any sort of green stuff as well. But you get the idea. The heads themselves, now these Enforcer torsos do come with a sort of fitting that goes inside the neck there as well. I'm deciding to leave those out for the time being because I'm not sure how these heads are actually going to fit in there. They might look better without the sort of neck bit underneath. So a couple of little bits of experimentation to do, and the next thing, of course, the most important thing that I'm going to be doing is cutting down and filing away these legs so they actually fit. Now, 4 of the 8 Beastman legs are less dynamic, sort of more in a sort of traditional standing pose, whereas the other 4 are very, very dynamic, so sort of running with their legs splayed like this. So I don't know if that's going to really suit the Enforcer vibe, so what I might have to do is just manipulate the legs a little bit. But we'll have a look, we'll come back and you can have a look at some of the experimentation that I do with those poses and stuff as we get into the latter part of the video here. So here's where things get a bit more fiddly and a bit more interesting, and it's probably the most painstaking and time-consuming process of the whole lot so far. And that is cutting down and filing away all of the Beastman legs. Now, of course, I have already done this prior to this whole video with at least one Beastman Enforcer that I had in my Outcast gang. You can see that on my Instagram. I might bring a photo of that up as well. But I'm finding already here that some of the Beastman legs are far too dynamic, I suppose, for the Enforcer poses, but you know, we're going to run with it anyway. It just means that I'm going to end up with a running hip shooting sniper rifle, which kind of looks quite cool actually, if I'm honest. But some of these work better than others, of course. Some of them require a lot more cutting than others. But it's really just part of that experimentation process. You can see me cutting away quite a lot of the top half of the Beastman booty, because like I said, they are quite thick-thighed, these guys, and a lot thicker than the Enforcer's legs would be anyway. So there is a little bit of overlap, and there is plenty of filing to be done on these as well. But yeah, I'm just testing things out, gluing it, pulling it apart, gluing it again until they look kind of right, I suppose. But the trick here is to try and make the not make the bodies look too sort of elongated, I suppose. So cutting away enough of the Beastman booty to make it fit under the sort of skirt of the Enforcer that they've got underneath the belt there as well. Like I said earlier, there are 2 of the Enforcer torsos that don't quite work at all. Because the legs have the skirt attached. I could have used those as well, and I might go back to it as well, but for the time being, I'm only making 7 Enforcers here because I kind of cocked up on one set of the Beastman legs and cut away too much, and now I'm finding it quite difficult to actually use that in a constructive way. But as you can see, lots and lots of filing, lots and lots of mess being made, and we're slowly getting our way through 7 different fighters so far. And you'll see very shortly the progress that's made on these as we glue them all together and wait for them all to dry. Now, many of you will probably be thinking, what are Bad Zone Enforcers? And of course, they're similar to Palanite Enforcers. However, these came out in a White Dwarf magazine not that long ago, actually. They have some slight differences, and I haven't actually played them in the game, so it's going to be really interesting to actually give them a full-on playtest in an upcoming campaign here in Australia, perhaps. Here's that sniper rifle I was talking about. So yeah, really dynamic pose for a sniper rifle. Looks a bit weird, but we're going to run with it anyway. But yeah, Bad Zone Enforcers, they are quite different to normal Enforcers. They get some of the same equipment, but have, interestingly, have sort of less access to ammo. So the bolt guns and shotguns and concussion carbines on your gangers all have the scarce trait. They can actually have auto guns and web guns and a few other different things as well. But the most the most obvious thing that's different between Bad Zone Enforcers and Palanite Enforcers is that they get access to scum conscripts, I suppose. So almost like town militia. You can see here, by the way, that I'm doing all the heads. That the Beastman heads on these Chaos, if anyone's done these before, are incredibly fiddly because the horns are a separate part of the head. And the horns have this, are attached to the sprue right in the middle where the join is onto the head. So you do need to cut away the middle part of the horns. And I'm really, really glad that I had a very pointy, sharp knife for this, because I've done this previously. It's very fiddly and you're in danger of cutting away some of the actual horns as well. But yeah, just getting all of the different heads done here. I think I did 7 or 8 heads here. There's some nice variety here as well. I don't think any of the 2 heads are the same, just because of the combinations of the heads and the horns. You can make for some really cool stuff, similar to, you know, how you do with Escher heads in Necromunda with the different hair and the different faces and whatnot. But a good bit of fun here. had. But yeah, that's Bad Zone Enforcers in a sort of nutshell. I do go and do a gang guide or a guide to Bad Zone Enforcers, so make sure you go check that out. This is the last part of the video where I've already kind of done my sort of drafts. Now I'm just attaching handguns and grenades around the waists to make them look a bit more chunky and fleshed out, I suppose, before we finish off and give them all a thorough good look. But that's that for now. So pretty happy with most of these, to be honest. One or two of them have slightly sort of elongated bodies, but generally pretty happy with them. The 7 that I've done so far anyway. Like I said, I have done some previously as well that are on a shipping container heading over to Australia at the moment. But here's the leader. I've gone with a power maul, GSC power maul, and a shotgun here that I'm probably just going to use as an enforcer shotgun, to be honest. I wanted to use a plasma pistol on this guy, but didn't have a spare one in the bits box, but he can have one on the hip perhaps. But really happy with that leader there. Here's the web gun. So this is going to be a hip shooting web gun champion. Really happy with this one. This is probably my favorite one actually. I really like the running pose and the head on this one particularly. Really strong looking, and yeah, the web gun actually suits the model quite well, so I can't wait to get a lick of paint on him. This is the very dynamic repositioning running sniper rifle guy. Bit of a weird one this, but I do quite like it now. And I think again, once it's been primed and you know, ready for being painted, it's going to look pretty cool. I've got 4 more sort of gangers here as well. Those were the champions, but we've got one with the enforcer bolt gun here, which is quite similar to the one I'd done previously for my outcast gang. Just a slightly different pose. I quite like him sort of leaning off to the side, but this one came out pretty well as well. So that's a bolt gun covering that base. We've then got one of the enforcer shotguns there as well, which is actually even more similar to the previous Beastman that I did. Happy with this one, but I knew that one would turn out well because I've done that sort of pose before. We've then got 2 more Beastmen gangers with auto guns because they can have them. This one's got an auto gun and a flail. Quite like this one. The flail was from the scum kit. In fact, that was the only piece that I used from the scum kit. And the auto gun is like a 1-arm jobby, which is quite cool. And the last one, and probably my least favorite actually, is just the standard Gene Stealer Co. auto gun running Beastman there. But I hope you enjoyed that anyway. I hope that gives you some insight. Please do like, share, subscribe, and you know, give me some comments and some feedback and some criticism. And hopefully I can catch you in the next episode, which shouldn't be too long, I suppose. But I'm going to start painting these guys up, and we'll do a video tutorial on how to paint up Bad Zone Enforcers. But that's it for now.